Sonic Dream Team. Eggman starts using a device to make his dreams come true. That'd be overpowered if it worked. Eggman wanted the power of the Dream Weaver to be neutralized, but it gets knocked out instead. And eventually the heroes go up to him. Come to think of it, why is Knuckles here instead of guarding his emeralds when there's so many of them here that they clearly don't need his help? I think it's that he's so confident and underestimates his friends, as Lost World and Frontiers implied. And he knows Eggman's here, and he's the only person he knows who would have the drive and ability to take the Master Emerald. And guarding the Emerald is boring. They're only here because of Rouge's intel. Even though really you'd expect Tails to be gathering intel on Eggman since he's the knowledge and technology character, while Rouge is about looking for treasure. And it hasn't been mentioned that she works for Gun in a very long time. If it's just that she can get intel because she can fly, why can't Tails have done that? Sonic thanks Rouge, and I like that she mentions that she needed a reward for helping him, because it makes her unique from them, remembering that she's more of a neutral character. Tails finds out the machine can control dreams, and they end up being put to sleep for some reason, even though they're not wearing the helmet that Eggman is. Sonic's talked to remotely at first by the guardian of the dream world area. Why didn't she talk to him in person right away? And she tells him to get MacGuffins that allow her to make dreams so she could get them from point A to point B to restore his friends from where they're trapped. This is just Sonic Generations and Sonic Shuffle smashed together. Why even bother with cutscenes if you're just gonna have the same plot as before? It's nothing but giving me exposition so far. When Sonic finds Amy, the story's a waste of time with the talking being pointless because Amy's being given exposition we were already given to get her up to speed. They use a needless amount of dialogue to remind us that the heroes have to get past a barrier to free their friends. I love that Rouge asks what pure-hearted even means. Ariam's mandated by her creators to only make a dream come true if it comes from a person she deems to be of noble intentions. I'm surprised someone who seems magical even had creators. So she's either an AI or was created by a fellow magical being. Noble intentions would apply to Sonic too. Why would Eggman think he has to use Cream and not some other random good person? I have to just assume it's because he thinks she's the weakest of the heroes because she's young, and she's only a threat because she can throw Chow at him and fly. Eggman used Cream as a filter to try to make his ambitions come true. And Ariam says she wasn't decisive enough in repelling Eggman and only trapped him in his own dream. Cream says thanks, and Ariam thanks the heroes for their hard work, and Sonic shows respect for Tails, who figured out Eggman can't use Theraviri's full power without Ariam, so he's gonna start threatening her eventually. She ends up telling the heroes that the dark fluid in front of them is magical nightmare fuel that Eggman's using for his minions, which makes Eggman competent. Tails finds out Eggman's gonna activate something dangerous to the heroes that they need to stop. Out of nowhere, Cream insists on going to stop it instead of expecting Sonic to. She's reminding me of IDW Cream, where she insists on going to fight Xena. Everyone's worried but Sonic, who's genre savvy that she'll be fine and is growing up fast. Just because Sonic's the main character, he's the only one who's smart here, and not a genius. Cream wanting to go straight into a dangerous adventure when she doesn't have to do so to save Vanilla or her pet just isn't in character for her, when basically her only character is being obedient and polite. So it's a good thing Sonic at least tried to explain away that she's growing up. Cream gets faced with a mecha, and because of her efforts, Knuckles and Rouge get free. Ariam calls Knuckles handsome, surprisingly, and Rouge agrees but complains that he's got no class or tact. I thought he had class when he apologized for hurting her. Apparently she convinced herself that he doesn't have class anymore. Yeah, he's such a brute. That's why he said, "I'm sorry if I hurt you." She'd only say this to mean that he hasn't shown any class in front of her ever since that moment. But that's not really fair because she barely spends any time with him. It looks like she just forgot about the whole reason she got a crush on him in the first place. This would only make sense if she was only trying to guilt him to make him show class again. Eventually, Ariam explains that she needs to be able to trigger something to get rid of Eggman's influence on this world, even at a personal sacrifice to herself. Her creators must have made it that way as a punishment to her. Her creators are dicks. Ariam has to get saved by Rouge from a monster all of a sudden. Surprisingly, it turns out Ariam got attacked and it drained her, so Cream hopes she'll get fixed. I never saw her get hurt. The story gets boring as the talking becomes worthless after Ariam starts standing up again with one of the heroes helping her. Ariam turns into a bull to be held for some reason. Probably because she's so weak she has to. The dialogue becomes a waste of time after this. Sonic ends up taunted by Eggman, who thinks he's going to take over the world. The heroes start passing Ariam back and forth from each other. I'm really pissed off at seeing Cream just stand still looking scared of measly egg pawns. And her and Cheese just hugging each other so that Knuckles can get a chance to knock them over off screen. When they fought billions of these robots in Sonic Heroes. This is so disrespectful just because of her age. It was cool to see Amy throw Ariam and jump and hit her away with her hammer. Sonic asks Tails if he's okay, calling him Buddy. Eggman threatens the heroes as a giant. I do like that it's using him in an intimidating way, but the use of the color purple from is offsetting it. Sonic makes sure Ariam would be able to do her duty. She thanks them and ends up ruining Eggman's plan. Sonic says nice work and the heroes wake up. I get to see Cream hug Amy, and she thanks the heroes for saving her. It would have made Eggman look competent and menacing if we got to see him kidnap Cream. I like that Cream's sad that the heroes didn't get to say goodbye to Ariam. Out of nowhere, Tails says he modified the protocols so they would be able to talk to Ariam again and explore the Reverie. They just won't be able to make dreams real. There was no hint he was working on this. But he's supposed to be humble, so naturally he wouldn't tell people he was apparently finding the time to work on this until now. And not having a hard time remembering the stuff he needs to program with all the people talking. He would have had time to do this when Cream was fighting that mecha though. I like that Cream said Cheese get him and Eggman was put back to sleep. It was nice to see Knuckles let Cream ride on his shoulders, and Sonic even high-fives Cheese. I guess the only reason Eggman said take the relic is that he knows he's outnumbered by powerful magical enemies of his, so there'd be no point in trying to keep them from getting Ariam back. The story ends with Ariam calling Tails clever and saying hi to Cream. Most of this story was just dry exposition, but thankfully there were only a few points in it where the dialogue was nothing but a waste of time, causing me to have the chance to get bored. And the story was respectful to Tails the whole time, impressing me by making it so that Ariam doesn't have to sleep for 1,000 years for saving them. Which is fine, because you didn't do anything to deserve that, and it was arbitrary anyways. At least Eggman powering himself up was cool. Since he's a human who's always just using machines to fight, I never expect him to get to power himself up directly with magic. And it feels right that the main villain of the series gets to do this. And him being powered up keeps me from being bored that he's the final boss. But I didn't feel anything about this either, because I already saw him power himself up in Sonic the Comic. And then one of the movies did it again. And this story doesn't clearly explain any of the powers he has. It doesn't say that he's omnipotent, which would be more impressive. Though it avoids the problem of wondering why he doesn't instantly win or something. I would have found it more threatening if it explained what exact powers he had because of this, instead of just looking like he's giant and can float things. Well, the last times he powered himself up, he was a lot more powerful. Combine that with the fact that Ariam is just a ripoff of Illumina, and Eggman's machine at the start is the only thing new about the story. The only time it got to impress me with its creativity so that I really felt like I was seeing a new story. Usually I don't feel anything about the story one way or the other. By the standards of bad Sonic stories, it's good, and I don't hate it. But let's be real here. A Sonic story isn't supposed to be almost nothing but exposition with nothing happening. The premise is insultingly unoriginal, and it's mostly just exposition where I'm grateful just to hear a character say thank you or compliment someone instead. And you could put those words in any of the characters' mouths and it'd still be in character. But it's still a step in the right direction compared to the previous game's stories. The only time I had an outright emotional reaction to this story was when it lingered on Cream and Cheese just staying still, scared of a bunch of weak robots after Sonic Heroes. That was the most disrespectful treatment of Cream and Cheese that's ever been in the games. Who wrote this? Dan Rossetti and Ian Flynn. You'd never think Cream being playable in the advanced games was canon with this. Because for someone who supposedly knows the characters, he sure doesn't know these ones.